What is up, everybody? My name is Blake Weiland, and I am the host of the Tone Mob Podcast. Today, I am bringing you another video edition of the show, and I say video edition because that insinuates that there is an audio edition, which there is. If you're more of an audio-only podcast consumer the way I am, you can simply go to Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your audio podcasts, and check the show out there as well. I've been doing it since 2015, so you can imagine there are a lot of episodes available on those players. And speaking of doing it since 2015, when I started this show, some people looked at me like I was ahead of the curve, and when I tell people about it now, they're like, wow, you were really early. But today's guest is somebody who is actually really early, somebody who's been making content since basically the dawn of YouTube. He's been there since the beginning, he's seen everything, and I wanted to get his story because this man has taught millions and millions of people how to play different riffs, different songs, different licks, how to get more out of their guitar. That man is Marty Schwartz. He has taught literally millions of us how to play the guitar, and I had to get him on here to tell his story, and that's exactly what we did. So, without further ado, let's get into this one with Mr. Marty Schwartz. Here we go. Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff, occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today I have Marty Schwartz. And I just realized, dude, this is going to be episode 500. So,
wow.
Yeah, we got a big guest for a big episode, so thanks for hanging out.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Happy to be here. Congratulations on 500 episodes.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
I mean, I guess that's up to the internet to decide whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. Could be a bad thing, I guess.
Yeah. We'll see. We're going to find out.
So I want to get right into your story because I think you've probably taught more songs to more people at scale than maybe anybody else in the history of guitar. And I don't think that's an exaggeration. But I don't actually know where it all started. I'd like to get the whole story. Yeah.
Well, I can definitely say that wasn't the master plan or goal to teach all these people. And I feel really lucky. I definitely seized every little opportunity along the way in this kind of career. So I definitely, worked really hard and made it happen, but there was no plan because this career didn't exist as I was creating it. It wasn't a career path that someone could follow. So ultimately I was trying things, and then I'd learn something that worked well, and I can get into those details, but, and then I would just like keep doubling down on the little things that were working. And, it was just this crazy journey that, I'm still doing that, so I've been making YouTube videos on guitar lessons for 16 years now.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like you were one of the first people, the first faces that I saw on the internet teaching guitar things. Like as soon as that technology was available to the masses, you were pretty much there. But let's take a couple steps. Let's go a couple steps before that, though. So what were you doing? Obviously playing guitar, but what were you doing that led you to think, I'm going to try this? What made you even think to do that so early?
Right. Well, and I one benefit I've had with the video thing is that I had taught thousands of private guitar lessons before YouTube.
Right.
Before the internet, really, even I was teaching guitar already. So I had a lot of the timing. There's someone says luck. The definition of luck is timing and preparation.
Sure.
I don't know who actually said that, but that was kind of a perfect storm for me. The timing. I had taught thousands of guitar lessons. I had a lot of experience as a musician. I was also a little bit older with young kids that I was trying to support. So there was motivation in that. But then not so old that I didn't embrace brand new technology with video editing and, just having, social media skills and stuff like that. So I was kind of old enough to have taught a lot of guitar, but young enough to not be freaked out by internet and social media.
Totally.
Shout out to Justin Sanderco.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was like the biggest one when I, started, I would say. So he was definitely before me. But I was thinking, I had the idea, well, whether it was me or someone else, when the internet and like MySpace came out and the Napster and this kind of peer-to-peer connections on the internet, I realized pretty early, I mean, many years before it actually happened for me, I realized that, there's no reason why someone can't, make a guitar lesson video that millions of people could watch, and also video is a great format for learning guitar.
Absolutely.
And also by being a guitar teacher, I remember many, many times where the student was either like nervous because they didn't practice and you're judging them. You know what I mean? Or, or they're just intimidated because they're being judged or whatever,
Well, they're literally learning in front of somebody, which is always a little bit weird.
It's especially the like they didn't practice thing,
Right.
So a video, you can go at your own pace, watch it as many times as you want without anyone saying, "Oh, no, you didn't practice," or anything like that. So there was definitely, I could see the format being perfect. I could see that the internet was going to do it. It was going to be someone, whether it was me or not. And now in 2024, it's actually, multiple people, millions of people doing it and millions of people watching. So it's not quite as unique, but because I've done it for so long and stuck with it, I've been able to kind of like place myself in this situation, and I'm just trying to like keep it going basically at this point. Because some of my biggest videos were made years ago, but because they're classic songs, they get views every day.
Of course.
So yeah, but if we want to like really talk about how, what led into it, I was a full-time gigging guitar player and full-time private guitar teacher. In 2005, I was already a full-time musician, but and I'd done sideman gigs. I played with some different singers that I got hired for. I was in original bands where I was a member of the band and wrote songs and toured, done all that kind of stuff. None of which most people would, it wasn't popular enough for like mainstream to have ever heard of those bands.
Sure.
But I did play with an American Idol singer named Elliot Yamin, who had a hit song, and I played with him. But basically in 2005, I randomly got hired as an elementary school music teacher.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So in 2005, I had like business cards in music stores for private lessons. There was this publication called The Penny Saver, which is like a Craigslist, but in print. And I had a paid ad in there, but it said, it's true. I have a music degree. I'm an experienced professional musician. I'm a professional guitar teacher. I'm good with kids, etc. And this elementary school, their music teacher quit like right when school started. Something happened and they had to quit. And so they were kind of desperate for a music teacher, and they saw my ad in the Penny Saver and they answered the ad. And I went in and did an interview, and I just told them, "Hey, I've never done this, but this is what I would do if you hired me." And they liked that. And so then I became an elementary school music teacher part-time, like 20 hours a week. But one of the most appealing things for me to get that job, which ended up being it was a fulfilling job. It ended up being very draining, took a lot of energy to do the job.
I'm sure.
But I mainly looked at it as an amazing way to get more private students from that school, And sure enough, that happened. So I got even busier as a guitar teacher. So I did that for 3 years. And in 2008, the economy crashed. And so that school laid me off. And I lost a bunch of students because their parents either got laid off or were worried about the economy. And so they cut out the extracurricular stuff like music lessons.
Mm-hmm.
So I lost some students, and then I also had some like regular weekly gigs, a couple restaurant gigs where I played with a looper and played background music, and then a gig with a band that I had every Saturday for like 5 years, like a regular gig. So they cut out music. So I just found myself in this kind of desperate moment where it all kind of happened at once, you know? Because typically I was trying to be very diverse. You have to be, you know, to kind of like be a self-employed music person, you know.
100%. Yes.
Podcasts were not happening yet either.
No, they were not.
Yeah, definitely not. But so, unfortunately, the economy affected my career at that moment, you know, really negatively, where I lost all this work at the same time. And during that process, when I was teaching private lessons, I did right around that same time in 2008. I still remember really well teaching this one kid, and it was like that third week in a row where he didn't practice, and he just kind of had these different excuses. So I flipped up my laptop, my Apple MacBook, flipped that up, turned the camera on, and hit record on the video. And I said, "All right, Colton, this is what you need to practice this week. You know, this is called the Hendrix chord, and we're going to play that, and then we're going to do this little lick here." It was a Hendrix song. And I filmed it, and I said, "Colton, I'm going to put this on YouTube." Because I had my first YouTube channel in 2005 to share videos of my daughter taking like her first steps and cute little family videos that I could share with my family easily. Back then, you couldn't text a video.
Right.
The files were too big back then. So I did have a YouTube channel, but I was thinking of it as a way to host family videos. YouTube wasn't the thing it is now. It literally was looked at as like a video hosting platform.
Just a place to keep your files, basically. Yeah.
Right, exactly. I looked at it almost like what Dropbox is. And I use Dropbox a lot for all the video stuff I do. But basically, I made this clip for a student, put it on YouTube, and I put his name in the title. And I even told him, which shows you how I wasn't creating this thing I have now, I told him I'm going to check how many views it gets, because literally he was the only one that was going to watch it and find it. So I was like, yeah, because I put his name in the title. No one is going to find it other than really people typing in his name, which is just going to be him. And so I told him, hey, I'm going to check how many views it gets, so I make sure that you watched it. And then I had a light bulb moment from there thinking, oh, that's actually really innovative, because I can actually, every private lesson I do, it's just good for the student. You know, it helps kind of journal what we did in that lesson. So the next step was kind of just at the end of the lesson, the last like 5 to 10 minutes of my private guitar lessons, I would flip my camera up and shoot what we did. Hey, I'm with Blake today, and we learned wagon wheel, and it's these, it's these chords.
Totally.
Here's the strumming pattern. So it was very similar to kind of like what the YouTube thing ended up becoming. But it was very much just catered for my private students. So that was the next moment. Hey, I was thinking to myself, I am so innovative. Like, I don't think any other guitar teachers are doing this. And so that was my next little light bulb along the way. And then one time I did that. And instead of putting the kids, I was putting their names first and the date, so I could find it, they can find it, maybe some information, but it was always like the student's name so they could just find it easily. And I still remember one student I was teaching, and I remember the song, is the intro to Mississippi Queen. And it was a little kid, and there was another cool thing about 2008, I guess it was, or 2007, 2008, was that songs like Mississippi Queen were really cool with little kids because of Guitar Hero.
Yep.
All these amazing classic rock songs, the kids didn't even know if they were a newer song or an older song. They were just Guitar Hero songs to some of these kids. So I really enjoyed that little era of teaching lessons, because all of a sudden I was teaching all these classic rock songs to little kids, and it felt good, like, because I like that music and everything. But I titled the video "How to Play the Intro to Mississippi Queen" for Chase, a kid named Chase, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when I did it with the song band and title first, that was my first lesson in SEO, search engine optimization. Didn't know that term or anything, and when I titled it the band name first, that video compared to all the other ones got like a few hundred views. You know, not like life-changing viral, but it got a few hundred views just by the title. And I saw right away what the difference was between that and the other ones that only got 20 views. So then I started doing that for all my students instead of, their name first. I just the song first, And there was one week where like a bunch of kids in a row asked to learn Stairway to Heaven. So that was like the next step was like, instead of it being the recap of the private lesson, the next thing that happened was one week, a bunch of kids all asked for Stairway to Heaven. And I was like, I don't feel like it. In my mind, I was like, I don't feel like teaching that. So I thought to myself, hey, you know what? I can just make a video that shows all the parts and put that on YouTube. And so this is before like Justin also, this is
Mm-hmm.
before, so this is probably like more like 2007 because I wasn't making a living at it, but it was these little happy accidents that I kept learning from and then implementing these little lessons I was learning along the way. And so the
It's
next
like
one was
things to
me.
make your job easier, really, is what it
Exactly.
was.
The only way I was making money was these students writing me a check, for $50 at the end of the lesson. That was the only way I was making money. So I was using all these other ideas to just make myself the best guitar teacher. That if on a referral, I could just send them to my YouTube channel and be like, hey, this is what I do. I'll make videos for you too. Like, I was like really onto something.
Mm-hmm.
And this was in San Diego. So I wasn't really branching out at all from the Southern California thing, but those were the little steps that was happening. So Stairway to Heaven, a bunch of kids asked for it one week, and I thought to myself, I'll just go home and make my own video. And then from now on, whenever a student asks to learn Stairway to Heaven, I will say, I'll tell you what, we'll do something else today, but I have a video on Stairway to Heaven. And so I want you to watch it through the week. And then next week, you show me what you got from the video, and then we'll do the rest. I'll clean it up. I'll still teach it to you, but I want you to start by watching the video.
Mm-hmm.
And so that then became, when I have some free time, I think I'm just going to make some guitar lesson videos to just reach people. I didn't know why or how, So this is before, so this is probably more like 2007, where I was just kind of getting this little thing going. And then fast forward to the economy crashing, getting called into the school, getting laid off, losing students, losing gigs, and I had a family and a mortgage and all this stuff. So I was freaking out.
Of course.
Yeah, I was freaking out. But so I got called into the elementary school. I remember it very well. The teacher laid me off. It was the summer, it was like a few weeks before school was supposed to start. She calls me in, lays me off. I'm like super bummed out. And I'm driving home from that. And I just told myself, I'm going to start making YouTube videos every single day. And it wasn't, I'm going to create this, teach more people guitar than anyone in the history or millions of I wasn't even thinking thousands. I was thinking more like hundreds,
Mm-hmm.
And, but I drove home and I thought to myself, I'm going to make YouTube videos as much as I can. So when I get referrals for students, I can send them right to the channel. Like, I'm just going to double down on this kind of like new technology and new ideas there's got to be something here at some point,
Was YouTube in 2007, 2008? Obviously, I was watching videos, but was it even monetized in the way that it became? Was AdSense part of it or any of that?
It was not monetized. There was no ads that popped up. There was a time limit that I want to say was 9 minutes, maybe.
Sounds vaguely familiar.
Yeah. I mean, I could be honest. I mean, I remember like there was a 5-star setting. You could give it 4, 2, 3, 5 stars, the video.
Right. Yeah.
The info box used to be above, I think. And then there's been various times where it was like subscribe there, subscribe there, subscribe there, subscribe there, hit the link, you know, all these different things change along the way. But when I first made those videos, it was just a wild west of nothing. There was no way to make revenue, no ads, was not owned by Google. So I was doing YouTube before it became its own industry. And even the first like probably 8-9 years of doing YouTube, I actually never made any real direct revenue from the YouTube. So it just became more of a marketing tool to build an audience and then sell the audience lesson courses that were originally on DVD. And now with Marty Music, you know, I have all these different courses and they're all digital now. And now now the music brands actually want to work with people like me, which they didn't back then. You know, the word influencer didn't exist, all that kind of stuff. So I've been part of it way before that, which is really fun to like watch and learn get this education as I do it. But basically YouTube was just, hey, I need to market myself. So these are like my little TV commercials as a guitar teacher, you know, I can send links to anyone. Like if I just met someone and I'm like, oh, I'm a guitar teacher, you could immediately be like, oh, go to my YouTube channel. You can see my style. And I always felt like I was personable. Obviously, that's probably the number one like feedback I get is my personality, which is like, I'm just telling you the feedback, right? I'm not telling you, hey, Jake, you know, or Blake, I'm sorry. Jake from State Farm. My editor's name is Jacob too. I'm not going to say, hey, Blake, you know what a great personality I have? I'm going to tell you all about my great personality. No, I'm just saying like, even before YouTube, like I could make little kids laugh and make them have fun. And I was very much in the Jack Black School of Rock vibe. And I probably like leaned into that even more before YouTube, like just, you know, like AC/DC, come on, let's go. You know, like just making them love it and have fun with it was always what I did. So, and it worked really well. So I felt like even now making YouTube, not having any revenue, I was like, yeah, this is a great way to like send people links that are thinking about taking guitar lessons. I'll definitely get them to try me. And so that was how it started. And then I saw guys like Justin and I thought to myself, wow, what would it be like to get 1,000 views? Or, you know, look at this guy. This guy's amazing, you know? And we're friends now. I mean, I pretty much know all the music YouTubers or met most of them. But Justin is definitely a friend, and we've hosted guitar clinics together and stuff. Not in the last 10 years, probably, but like more in the beginning. I went to England. He came to San Diego, and he's just a great guy. We went through all these similar experiences together, and we're the same age, so it was just kind of, and we both play guitar, you know.
Right.
So we have a lot in common. He didn't have kids back then, but now he's got young kids. My kids are old now. But basically it was just, I kept learning these little things and then implementing them. And so I saw Justin and I was like, how does Justin make a living? Like he's putting a lot of, I was still having to I was doing this, making videos, but then converting revenue by still teaching private lessons. So there was quite a while where YouTube was actually starting to blow up for me and I was still having to teach private lessons. And in the beginning, because all of a sudden I started getting popular on YouTube, people were DMing me for private lessons. And you couldn't so I was still converting into financial stuff by doing private lessons. So it was still the like main revenue thing. But
there's only so much of that you can do, right? Because
you run out of slots of time. But I started to be able to charge more. Started like getting people to reach out to me. I could like cut students I didn't really like. I could just basically kind of, you know, make it a little better and bigger. But yeah, you reach a point where you don't have any more time left. And I was like, well, God, I still got to make videos because that's where the future is. But I'm not making any money from the videos. So I still have to go and teach. So I was like kind of splitting my time for a while and trying to figure out how guys like Justin made a living. And I actually never ended up making my living back then how Justin did. Justin took donations, which I didn't want to do it that way. But the only reason Justin did that is because he had all these song lessons on his website. And especially back then, it's still all kind of gray area. But back then, like, because of the copyright stuff, like, they were not having it back then, the publishers and all that. It was very, very sketchy. And so he made it free, but please donate. But he did that. I mean, he would probably admit it too. It's goodwill to have something free, but it was ultimately because of getting around teaching famous songs on his website.
Yep.
What I did was I just taught famous songs just on YouTube for free. So there's no money now it's different, but back then it was like the video wasn't making money. I wasn't making money. I was just teaching it on like a fair use education thing, but people would like me. And then I would teach them how to play, beginner guitar, how to play blues, how to play lead guitar, how to play rhythm guitar. I just thought of every topic I've ever learned on guitar myself and then made those into different DVDs. And so eventually I started being able to make a bit of a living from selling DVDs and then a bit more, cut out the private students a bit more, cut out the private. And then, I remember even thinking one day, whoa, what would it be like to not have to teach private lessons anymore? What would that be like?
Right.
Oh, I'm sure that'll never happen, but but that's something to think about. And also I do remember going like, man, if I could just make an extra like $500 a month to help with my bills and, on top of all this gigs and private lessons, man, that would really help, And so, so it was all very realistic goals. I never imagined millions of anything. Never. And then, but once you get like, a few thousand, then you think, oh, 10,000. Wow, what would that be like? And then you think, well, 100,000, what would that be like? Whoa, 1 million? I can't even believe, But by the time it was like into it was a few years in. So you get kind of used to like each step because it's not happening overnight. But that was the start, just super organic. Like, that's why it's hard to tell someone like, oh, if you wanted to like start doing tutorials today, how would you do it? Be completely different how you would do it today than back then. So, but I kept learning along the way, and 16 years later, I'm still learning, and I shot 2 videos today before this. So, they were easy to do. They weren't lessons, but they were like, some different, call to action things I needed to do. Cause I work with, I'm so fortunate. I, work with all these big brands now. I have my own signature guitar with Epiphone, an ES335 Marty Schwartz signature, that I'm really happy, really proud of because I love the guitar, I got to help create it. And for all the guitar nerds out there, I'll say that my Epiphone signature ES335, it's the nicest Epiphone 335 you can get new right now. And it's also the only one that has the single coil push-pull as well for a 335. So if you were looking for kind of a well-rounded guitar that's affordable but has it's got locking tuners. I'm actually not holding it right now, but it's got locking tuners, the extra nice figured maple top sides and back, which the Epiphone usually doesn't do. And then those push-pull pickups. And and it's done really well. So it's just kind of like, and it doesn't like have my like signature up here. If you're just seeing someone play it, it just looks like a really nice 335. But then on the back headstock, it's got my logo. And obviously never imagined back, in 2007, 2008, looking into a Epiphone or a Gibson on those little prints in there. And it says Marty Schwartz signature guitar.
So cool.
I mean, never imagined in a billion years. But once again, I owed all to my personality. So thanks, Mom and Dad, I guess. I don't know.
How did that happen? Did Epiphone just reach out and was like, hey, we want to do something with you? Like, getting a signature
I'm
guitar
happy
is pretty special. So how did that happen?
Yeah, and it was not an overnight thing at all. I'd love to say that it's really Gibson.
Yeah.
Epiphone is owned by Gibson, but there's no difference in the behind the scenes when you're talking to people. It's the Gibson people, and they're like, "Oh, we're going to get your Epiphone out," but it's not like, "Oh, let me talk to the Epiphone CEO and talk." It's all the same. So it's really Gibson is the relationship I have. Well, I can happily say that really all my because I work with Boss. I'm on my 4th year with Boss, using the Boss Katana mainly as my main thing that I work with them on, which is just an awesome amp for the price. It's so great. And I've worked with Boss to make all these famous song patches that you can download for free. And so I've done that for 4 years. So like all the like biggest tunes, you can go to a page if you have a Boss Katana and literally click those different famous songs and get a pretty close representation of that tone and effects and all that. So that's been fun. But I can happily say all the brands I've worked with, none of them were really like knocking down my door. Really, it was multiple meetings at multiple NAMM shows, like maybe like 3 years in a row as Marty Music. Brands weren't working with guitar YouTubers until the last like 5 years, probably. I would say. I mean, there's exceptions, but like someone like me was not working with Gibson and Boss and all that until more recently.
Yeah, it was a little more on the like review or demo side of things that they were working with those people,
right,
less on the
right.
more
And
general pop
as
type stuff.
yeah, and I started Marty Music is only 8 years old.
Okay.
And the stuff that led into it, that's a different story. But Marty Music, 8 years, it's a long time, focused on that 100%. And as YouTube evolved with, with ad revenue, that has changed. But then at the same time, I work with a network that manages my YouTube. They don't handle any of my private courses and website. They just focus on YouTube, but the brand deals. And so I had my manager from that network. They're called Made in Network in Nashville, Tennessee. Although they've basically, I signed with them at the very beginning of their company, and they've evolved into basically the main food influencer network. So all the biggest cooking people have ended up there. And the kind of flagship that started it all was Binging with Babish.
Mm-hmm.
And but now they have Maddie Matheson, that's on the show The Bear, and he helped like produce and create that show.
Yeah, love that dude.
Just any of the biggest cooking people they have. So I'm kind of like this outlier now with them, where I'm the music guy with the channel, and it's all cooking stuff.
Well, cooking is very relevant to my interests as well. So that.
Oh, cool. Have you heard of Babish?
Oh yeah, yep, definitely.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he's like a whole other stratosphere than me, but I play guitar. I get to play guitar.
That's right.
And that's really fun. But there were I would say 3 NAMM shows in a row where I had representation with me. And we were mentioning our mutual friend, Andy Pritchard, who you worked with at String Joy, and now I work with him. He works for D'Addario now.
Yeah.
But I still remember that, it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago. But my first meeting with D'Addario at the NAMM show, the guy didn't know who I was, didn't recognize me, didn't know, which is totally fine. I don't expect anyone to know me. But we went into the meeting and because we laugh now, because we went into the meeting to try and get some sponsorships, a brand deal, whatever you call it. And they were like, "Oh yeah, we work with, all kinds of artists and stuff. So what we can offer you is 15% off strings and products." That was the deal they offered me. That was their brand deal, that I could, get a 15% discount on D'Addario products. So that was my first meeting with D'Addario. 3 meetings later, 3 years later, now I'm actually working with them and making branded content, so I went to their factory and we watched strings get made. We watched products get made, all this stuff. So it's a much, bigger deal now. But basically 3 years in a row, met with every single, category in music that you could meet with and just pitched them, and met with Gibson. And what really worked out with Gibson, and then it was a few years in with Gibson before the signature guitar came out. But my first, real getting, Gibson got acquired. I think that's the way to, new ownership, they became a new company. And that's when I came on with them, right? When they got new ownership. Yeah, of course, right? Mm-hmm. They're going to they're going to throw some gasoline on this thing and get modern and talk to YouTubers and talk to, and do the new thing. And so the timing was perfect where I met them right when they were switching over, but it was the NAMM show and it was really cool for me. They had a panel and Gibson does this great thing called G3. I don't know if you've heard of G3. I think it's a concert too of the,
I was going to say, I'm thinking of Steve Vai and Satriani right. and all that.
But Gibson has a mentorship program called G3 and it's for kids. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's just, it might be 3. They get 3 years on. I can't remember how. I think it's 3 years. And so they get, and it's kids that play guitar and they audition and they submit and then they go through a panel and only a certain amount get picked. And then they get opportunities like playing at the NAMM show or playing with me. I do a Gibson showroom event about every 6 weeks here in Nashville. And some of those G3 kids come up and jam with me in a band. There's things in town, there's events. They get opportunities to meet people and to perform. And so before I was working with Gibson, I went to the NAMM show G3 panel. And there was an MC guy interviewing all these kids, or let's say 6 kids. They're all up there, and they all got to show some jamming, and it was really entertaining, packed audience, pre-pandemic and all that. And I was standing there watching the kids, and so the MC. Oh, and I even have, because we're on video now. This is gonna be great. I can pantomime. Got my microphone right here.
Very nice.
How are we doing out there, Internet? I see you and you and you. So the guy was talks to the first kid, and he was like, "Hey, Billy, man, that was so awesome! All those shredding licks, buddy. That was so great. So tell me, how did you start learning?" And you go like that, and the little kid was like, "Well, actually, he's sitting right there. His name's Marty Schwartz. I learned from him." And I was like, wow, I didn't even pay that kid.
That's so cool.
Right? But it got even better because they were like, oh, yeah. And they pointed me out. And I was like, hey, everyone, that's all good. Yeah, awesome, dude. You're great. And then they literally went to the next kid. And they're like, okay, well, now let's talk to you. When did you start playing? And he was like, well, actually, I learned from Marty, too, over there. And then the next kid was like, well, yeah, I of course, watch Marty as well. And mm-hmm. I watch Marty as well. And so it couldn't have been a better setup to then go, hey, man, we got to do something. We got to do something together. And so
that had to have felt really cool, though, to see all those kids.
It was amazing.
And just be like,
and I still get that. And especially spending a lot of more time here in Nashville, which is because the network is based here. Maiden Network's here. That's why I've been working here. But to go to different events in town and people, well, it's cool because those little kids now are in their 20s. Mm-hmm. So there's this whole new wave of people I get to meet now who were little kids watching me or are now out gigging. Even Greta Van Fleet. I mean, they watch me, as a kid. I don't take any credit for teaching them guitar, but my information was there for them to take a lick or take a scale and do they did it. I always say to anyone, they did it, but I'm so glad that it was my video, Great. There's this girl, Grace Bowers here.
She's incredible.
Curly blonde hair. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So she learned the pentatonic scale from my videos, and I'm so proud of her. And once again, I didn't do it, but I'm just proud to be any part of the story,
Totally.
But so Cesar, who's now the CEO of Gibson, he was kind of like involved with the acquisition and everything. I DM'd him after that NAMM show, and he just DM'd right back and said, "Hey, let's set up a meeting like when you're in Nashville and let's talk." And I had great representation in those meetings. So like if it would have been me in the meeting, I would have just been like, "Give me a Les Paul. I'll do whatever you want." Yeah. And do you got an SG too? And can you give me a discount on an SG? Like I wasn't thinking big at all, but I ended up becoming a great partnership. And then, I still like, I did a lot. I've probably done the most work with Gibson during the pandemic. The pandemic hit and they couldn't do all the sessions and going places and creating content. The content was a lot harder for them to make during that time. And so for like a year and a half or 2 years, I don't even remember now because it was the pandemic, so it's all kind of a blur. But I was doing live streams on Gibson's platform for them, and they were sending me different cool guitars to demo, and we'd pick different topics. It was called Back to Basics. And so I was doing all this content for them for a really long time. Okay, yeah. So for the very first meeting with Gibson, there was talk of a signature guitar. And with the pandemic and then also Epiphone, there's more steps involved than with a Gibson. But I knew in that first meeting I wanted it to be an Epiphone. I mean, the like guitar hero in me would want, an American Gibson signature, but
Murphy Lab,
knowing my
yeah.
no, yeah, right, yeah, $30,000 custom shop. But knowing how I fit in this ecology of guitar, I think that's the right way to use that word. The way I fit, I mean, it was just a no-brainer that I wanted to just be like basically the nicest Epiphone that you could get, that I would want. If I was like, okay, Marty, you have to gig with an Epiphone for the rest of your life, here are your options, I'd be like, boom. And I picked everything. And I picked the red because of Back to the Future, actually.
I wondered about that.
Yeah. Yeah. And then also just the hollow body kind of comes from that. I mean, that was like a 355, I think, or 340. It was.
I think it was a 355.
It wasn't a 335.
Yeah.
Yeah, 355. But which I think I was told that just is how much they cost originally when they came out. So like a 335 didn't have as much of the trim. So a 355 had extra trim, and so it cost 355 instead of 335. It cost $20 more. I don't know if I was just told that.
I don't know. That's the first time I've heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me the way things went back.
Well, the guy that told me is very legit. I'll give him a shout out right now. David Davidson from he ran the Songbirds Guitar Museum in Chattanooga, and then he owns Well Strung Guitars. So like he brokers the most expensive guitar acquisitions for Joe Bonamassa, and that's all you have to say, really.
I think he probably has a pretty good idea what he's talking about versus me.
Yeah. I mean, that's where I've played a Dumble before. Let's put it that way. Was at his place. So I think he knows what he's talking about. But like the ES stands for Electric Spanish.
Yep.
So he was saying all that at the same time. But yeah, I got the 335 cherry red, 335 because of Back to the Future. I put block inlays on it because of BB King. The push-pull is actually a Jimmy Page thing that he would do. But also you can just get it a little more Strat sounding. When I use a wah pedal or fuzz, I like single coil pickups for that. That's just what I prefer. So it's perfect, for doing that. But then, it's just like one of the coolest things that ever happened for me as, I was just like any other teenager, saw the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Pearl Jam and Guns N' Roses in concert. And, those were the bands I grew up watching when I was first like getting, going through puberty and like, learning guitar and dreaming and fantasizing about, being a rock star and all that kind of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. And what's cool is actually my career is better than the initial dream, because I was able to be home with my kids are older now, but I was able to be home with them. I worked from home. I could still go play if I wanted to, but I didn't have to. I didn't have to travel for my career, but I could when I chose to. And so it felt really good to like have a stable home life, but then also reach so many people with the thing I love to do. And, I didn't know I was going to be known as a guitar teacher either. I was really a guitar player,
Right.
And even now, like people don't always think of me as a guitar player, which believe me, do you see how sad I am about it? But it's nice to be known. It's nice to be known for anything. But no, my gig that I have is better than the fantasy I had, of watching MTV and all that. This is better for me. It makes me happier. And also when I am out, like at the show that I did, a few days ago, all these young 20-something-year-olds come up to me and they go, oh, I know you've probably heard this before, but you taught me everything I know how to play guitar, and now I'm in a band, and thank you so much. And I've said it a million times. I'm like, that never gets old. Like that does not get old. And I've never been like harassed or like, I'm not like well known enough mainstream to where I'm like get bugged. It's like, if you recognize me, we already have a very specific thing in common. It's like,
Yes.
I know you play guitar. I know that you watched me to learn guitar. We already have a relationship,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to like an actor or an artist that's in a band. It's like, it's a little more like hero worship, where with me, it's this like, connection, a rapport that I already know I have with you.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
And you there.
Everybody watching this. I mean, it's an incredible thing to think about. I mean, when I started doing this, I definitely started it with some intention to do it. I wanted to do exactly what I'm doing right now, but I didn't know for sure if it would happen. But I had examples like you and other people to look at that had made some sort of career happen off of internet stuff. Because I love guitar and I love gear, but I knew, my listeners know this, I knew from a very early age, I'm like, I'm not going to road trip around the country. I hate road trips. I'm not going to live that life. As cool as being on stage is, all the grind and stuff, it was not for me. I love being in the studio. I love writing, but like I couldn't be a road guy. There's no way. And so
I've talked to a lot of musicians about this, or related with them about this, is we say there's 24 hours in the day, and like 2 hours of that day is like pure bliss on stage rocking. But those other 22 hours are pretty rough.
They're rough and boring sometimes, really hard.
Pretty rough. Yeah. Like sitting in vans, sleeping uncomfortably, getting sick, getting food poisoning, getting ripped off, and just that travel grind, being tired, just not getting enough rest. And so, yeah, in your 20s, it's an adventure, but you have a family and you get older. It's you got to be pretty, obviously that top tier, the top 0.001%. Yeah, they travel in style and they stay at the nicest hotels, but we're talking, 0.0001,
That might be, I mean, being generous, that might be 1,000 artists out of the thousands upon thousands that try to do it. Like, really?
Yeah.
There's not that many artists staying at the Ritz-Carlton on tour. It's very rare.
No, it's the AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, Paul McCartney, Elton John, like Bruce Springsteen, like just that top tier. That's it.
Yeah. And then there's a level under it where it's a lot more comfortable than a van, but still kind of uncomfortable. Like
the tour bus seems so exciting to me. When I was a kid, And you
then
go
you
on
see
them
it.
now and you're just like, oh my God, like it's rough.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's a bunk bed, and your nose is just 6 inches from the bottom of the other one, and just like,
Yeah, it's
it,
a bit stuffy,
yeah, it's better than a van. Don't get me wrong, I understand
of
that, but
course.
having gone inside, it's
Hey,
like, and seeing the other side is weird.
so I work with Slightly Stupid sometimes,
Uh huh.
San Diego
Yeah.
band, and they're fully tour bused, sell out Red Rocks. They do the 5,000 seat amphitheaters, and it would be surprising. I mean, and I'm sure there are so many other bands that are doing the exact same thing. But like a band like Slightly Stupid, they're in a couple of tour buses or maybe two, like a crew bus and a band bus maybe. But I don't think people realize that like a band like that, they're not even actually staying in hotels.
Right. Right.
So, they take the bus to the venue and they go to the bathroom and shower and nap and whatever they have to do between the tour bus and the venue. The venue's got the shower and bathrooms and stuff. And you're just sitting around all day until the show, which is way later that night. The show's over. They get on the tour bus and then they sleep on the bus as it travels by night into morning into the next place. And then they do it all over again.
Mm-hmm.
But they're at the level where they will just go out for do that for like 1 week or like a 4-day weekend, that they fly out to where the bus is rented. But that's like they're very successful band, by band standards,
Mm-hmm.
not Bruce Springsteen or Rolling Stones, but that kind of what we're saying, the amphitheater style band. And they're not even staying in hotels, they don't even have the comfort of a hotel.
That's most people who most people listen to, like like most of the people that have been on this show, if they're in a touring band, that's the situation they're probably in. Some of those people are still doing vans though. Some people go, you know what, it's not worth the expense of the bus, even though I could afford it. I'm just going to grind it out in the van and pocket some more money at the end of the tour.
Well, and also scheduling wise, in some ways the van's even better.
Yeah.
The van, you might actually, you will stay at a hotel because you're saving money on the bus. But also the van thing could also be that you're just flying in for that Friday and Saturday. You don't need a bus for the next place is only 3 hours away. You're going to stay at a really nice hotel and take the van. That's like, another way to do it. A band like Slightly Stupid, they've got a really big crew, bunch of, it's like 8 guys in the band.
I'm going to say it's a big band.
They're doing amphitheaters.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing amphitheaters. So they've got all this gear, there's just more involved. So they just do it that way. But yeah, it's, once again, it goes back to that, what I said though a few minutes ago, is that there's 24 hours in the day, and that fantasy thing you're seeing is only 2 hours of that 24 hours. And if you follow anyone like country artists that are like in that, they're successful, but not, Tim McGraw, but like, the more working musician. I'm thinking of my friend Lindsay L.
She's great. Yeah.
She's awesome. She did some guest lessons on my channel, and so I'm just familiar with her career. If you follow her on Instagram, I mean, she's just constantly walking through airports and on airplanes, And I don't know about you, but like, I hate flying. I mean, not scared of flying. It's just that like, it's so draining, traveling.
Do it because I have to, not because I want to. Like, I want to get to where I'm going.
Yeah, like someone like her, it's just like because they have to, like, artists have to make clips all the time on social media, and a lot of her clips are on a plane or and walking through an airport, and you're like, oh right, that's kind of red eyes. I mean, early flights and like delays, and it's the worst.
It's
absolute worst.
It's so gnarly. Well, hey, I just noticed
just be prepared to really enjoy. Yeah, just be prepared to really savor those 2 hours of the fun part.
Right. If you get lucky enough to get to that point, it's a very
just do it.
Very tough.
Just do what I do. I'm working right now.
Right. Yeah, it was so easy, wasn't it? It was the easiest thing ever. It wasn't at all difficult to get to where you are.
I commuted upstairs.
let's see. I asked some people in the Tone Mob Facebook group. I told them you were
Oh,
coming on,
nice.
and
Cool.
I and as when I last looked, I'm really bad at this because I always remember to tell them like a half hour before I'm actually going to do it, so nobody has time to actually ask any questions. But there's a lot
Gotcha.
of we got one from Dave, we got one from Sean Dolan, we've got a bunch of other people basically just saying thank you so much for everything that he's
Oh,
done. Just tell Marty that I said thank you. I've learned a lot from him, and I really appreciate all this stuff. But we do have some questions in here, mostly
yeah.
jokey,
Okay.
ones.
Oh, like Reddit style jokes.
Nicer than Reddit.
Okay.
Uh, he says, "Can he Matthew? I can never pronounce Matthew's last name. Sorry, Matthew Fenislow. Fenislow. I don't know. I've only read it. I've never heard it said out loud." He said, "Can he use that GGI de-aging on his videos so I don't have to confront my own mortality when I watch one of his old videos and then a new one back to back?"
I actually appreciate that. I appreciate that comment because he didn't say. The stupid comments are, "Whoa, Marty got so old."
You're like,
Well,
well,
right back. You aged the exact same amount. How much older I am, you're that much older too, my friend.
yes,
You didn't
exactly.
stay young and me get old, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And what's the alternative to getting old?
There's
I'd
only
much
one.
prefer getting old to the alternative. So no, it doesn't bug me. And I will say, I've been exercising a lot, so I feel pretty good
I was
and
gonna say you're
eating
looking
well and
good.
stuff.
You're looking good.
Oh, thanks. I've
Mm-hmm.
been, just trying to be super healthy and so I still feel good. I'm not like complaining about, I mean, I do have some aches and pains, but like I feel pretty good. But I have amazing life lessons that I wouldn't trade for my youth. The things I've just learned along the way, and so I really value the journey I've been on and what I've learned from it. Never thought I'd be a businessman or understand sales and marketing and advertising and just a lot of business stuff I avoided when I was younger because I wanted to be a guitar player.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really grateful for all and the hardest lessons. I mean, the best lessons were the hardest ones to go through, but once you get past them, you now have a great new knowledge, like for instance, the legal system.
Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, that's always a fun one to learn about. Is the legal system. That's always the.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
You never want to learn those lessons, but once you're done, you're like, well, I won't make that mistake again.
Yeah, and when it's great, and when it's way past you, anything like that, you're like, wow, I sure learned a lot. I would never want someone to go through it, but I got some great knowledge out of it. So I
100%.
look at it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was talking about the aging thing, the de-aging and the aging. Hey, an AI scam, an AI, the first AI scam using me popped up a few weeks ago. Where someone took a video of mine and the lips were redone, and I was saying like that you could win a Les Paul, and it was a complete scam, and it was they synthesized my voice and my lips moved to it, so you could really tell it was fake. But it's scary because it's not going to look fake, in another year or two.
Mm-hmm.
And you can your gut tells you it's a scam, but some people fall for it.
Well, they want to believe because that's exciting, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, there's this guy that I trust because I've been watching him for years, telling me this. I'm yeah. It's I've thought about that a lot in the last couple of years as this AI stuff has popped up more, and I'm like, man, most of my stuff for years and years was audio only. I only recently started putting a lot of effort into YouTube. Which was dumb, but whatever. It's worked out all right. But I've been thinking, like, man, my voice would be so easy to rip and put into something else. There's thousands of hours,
Right. So that whatever they used, you could tell it was a younger voice that they sampled.
Interesting.
My voice sounded younger. And there was like certain inflections that I would never use that were just synthesized, but it was really weird, really, really weird. And I got to hear about it multiple times a day.
What do you
only
do
on
about
Facebook.
it?
I just report it and block them and tell other people to do the same. Because really, once again, when I say there's 24 hours in a day, I can relate that to that. Do I want to spend 3 hours going after some scam, or do I want to spend those 3 hours making new content? It's going to be way more valuable to do the positive thing of making more content and just focusing on moving forward, you know?
Yeah.
But it's a case by case basis, you know. If it, like something's like really blowing up and it's a scam, you know, I'll take more action if I have to. But for the most part, it's just, you know, hey guys, this is going on, just report it. You know.
Yeah, totally. Well, we've
all right, enough about me being old.
Hey, you know, like you said, making Matthew confront his own mortality. I think he's older than you are. So
I get it. He said it the right way though, because he alluded that he's old too.
Yes. Well, we're all getting there. You know, I've got gray in my beard these days.
16 years, man. I've been doing it for 16 years, and I was, you know, over a decade as a professional musician before that. You know, what can I do?
Yeah, hey, I'm starting to get there with you. Like this, next year will be a decade for me of being public. Yeah, so it's kind of weird. Thank you, man.
The fact that you can still do it is a great sign.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna keep trying. That's all we can do these days, right? Well, I do have a couple classic questions to wrap this episode up on before we switch to Patreon. And I want to give you the chance, though, to take the floor. You can shout out anybody you want to shout out. You can plug anything you want to plug. You know, you're talking to a few thousand people right now, which you're kind of used to. But if there's anything you want to get out to the people, now's the chance to do it.
I appreciate that. I mean, well, obviously, Marty Music is the brand. But I show up because I've done it so long. There's all kinds of other things that aren't affiliated with me where I'm still show up, you know? And it's not just one thing, it's multiple things. And you just can't stop them all or put energy into stuff that's not as productive as moving forward. So, you know, Marty Music's the only thing I've done for 8 years. I thank anyone out there that's, you know, gotten benefit from it. Really thank you for that. I will be trying to get out more, performing more in the next year. I usually play a few shows, you know, 4 or 5 kinds of shows a year. But I'm going to try and do more and like put a real band together of all musicians in Nashville so I can actually rehearse. Most of the shows I've done in the last few years, it's like a couple of my friends from California, a couple guys from Nashville. It's thrown together. They're all so good that the show always goes really well, but it's not like a rehearsed show. You know, it's just always like, hey, we're going to just rip it up and it'll be great, but it's never like fully oiled machine. Totally. So I'm trying to do something more like that. I don't want it to take up too much of my time. I'm going to do what I'm doing for the last 16 years. I have no plans to stop doing that. I release videos every day. So I'm going to keep doing that, but I'm looking to, you know, play out a bit more. And I just did a show here on a couple nights ago, and I used the singer who I collaborated with recently, and I'm hoping that we work more together and maybe write some songs and stuff. His name's Paul McDonald, and he's awesome artist that lives here in Nashville. He just played the Opry for his first time. I mean, he's an established solo artist, but you know, that's like someone that I've enjoyed working with, so that could happen. And there's an event here that's the band. They're called Pitch Meeting, and they're awesome. And so between those two things, hopefully I'll be doing some more shows. Obviously I've got courses at martymusic.com that I think are really helpful, and that helps support me and my family. So that's always good, but I think they're really good courses. You know, if you wanted to learn how to play lead guitar and you were only a rhythm guitar player, I can definitely teach you how to do that with the courses. I'll give one of my test subjects a shout out. Once again, I had nothing to do with it other than she used my videos to learn, but she did it. Her name's Celise.
Celise.
Amazing.
I love
Yeah.
Celise. Celise has been on
So
the show.
she's like
I love her
that
a lot.
from-
She's awesome.
She bought my lead guitar DVDs back over 10 years ago. And the reason I know this is because I, first met her because she reached out to me one day, like probably over 10 years ago, and was like, "Hey, you don't know me. My name's Celine." I mean, she's way more recognizable now. When she reached out to me, she wasn't as like mainstream as she is now. But she reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I bought your DVDs a few years ago, and here's a clip of me playing." And it was just her ripping it up. And I was like, yes, oh my God. I'd never thought that far through where someone would actually like take it and like go beyond, And so all of them, like Brandon Niederauer has another just phenomenal guitar player, another kid named Asher Belsky, who's now at USC, total prodigy. This little kid in England named Leonardo Fibonacci. I don't know if I'm saying his last name right, but like Eric Clapton went and met him because of a video he saw of him when he was like 5 years old playing Tears in Heaven.
Wow.
And so and they're all learned it from my videos. And Brandon Niederauer, Taz? You heard that name?
I've heard the name before. I'm not super familiar. But
Yeah,
I've heard
so
the name.
T-A-Z, look him up. He's incredible. And he's probably about 20 years old now. But I met him when he was probably like 9 or 10, and he was just incredible back then. And when I finally met him, and I walked up to him, and he was like, "The first song I ever learned was from your video.
Dude.
I'll never forget it." Yeah, and so I get a lot of those little, because those people are in their 20s now. I wouldn't have met them when they were little, but now I get to meet them out and about. And a lot of them are in Nashville, so if I go out here, I can, run into people and stuff. But yeah, I guess the original answer was things I'm plugging. And it's just, Marty Music. You can follow me, Marty Schwartz on Instagram, just the basics.
Totally.
But hey, buy a course.
Buy a course. Do it. Why not? You might too then go on tour with Willie Nelson and, who else? Whoever else Celise is touring with right now, like all these huge names.
No, she's doing awesome. But even like a band like Greta Van Fleet,
Yeah.
Where
you never know.
I didn't teach them guitar, but no, they did watch my videos. I've met them, so
I watched your videos. You too could talk about guitars on the internet one day.
Well, I have said you'd have to really, really not like me to not have ever seen me. You'd have to go out of your way to avoid me, is what I'm saying.
I think so.
If you're looking up guitar lessons, I'm gonna pop up, whether you like it or not. I like it.
Yeah, of course. Of course. All right, well, we've got the final classic questions to wrap this up on. First one, and this is good for you. What is your favorite Boss pedal?
Ooh. Well, there's no rules to this, so I definitely know the one I've used the most is the Boss RC loop pedal.
Yeah.
I've sold a lot of those too.
Of course.
I've probably helped them sell a few thousand of those. So that's the one I definitely use the most. But it would be a tie between the classic OD1, just classic overdrive distortion. It sounds so good.
Yep.
Simple, sounds good, and the Blues Driver.
Love the Blues Driver. Love it.
The Blues Driver is great. So I have it's not in production anymore, but I have my own overdrive pedal called the Schwartznator. And it's based on the Blues Driver circuit EQ.
Very nice. Very good. Yeah, the Blues Driver, I think, deserves a little more love than it gets. It's a great circuit. I love the Blues Driver.
Those Boss pedals, just because they're some of the first pedals ever, they get overlooked because we have this whole boutique pedal world now. But the Boss pedals, I'd love to see someone blindfolded, like pick the boutique pedal every time, because they're not going to.
Oh,
They're not going to. The Blues
Boss-
Driver is as good a pedal as you're going to get.
There's a reason why, beyond it was a listener suggestion a long time ago, but there's a reason why I asked specifically about Boss pedals, because everybody's got a favorite. Everybody's used them. Everybody has a reference point for it.
Huge shout out to Prince. He only used Boss pedals. So anything you ever see of Prince ripping on guitar, it's only a Boss pedal. So there you 100%.
Go. All right, final question. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Classic New York cheese, thin, sliced New York pizza.
Do you have a favorite
or
pizzeria?
Connecticut.
Or Connecticut.
Or Connecticut.
Oh, yes. New Haven. Yeah, you can't go wrong with the New Haven
exactly.
Slice. Do you have a favorite pizzeria? No.
No, because when I'm in New York, I'm just like,
let's go.
I'm going to that one. I mean, Joe's Pizza, I think, is famous in New York.
I love Joe's. Joe's is great.
Yeah. So I would throw that out there. But, like, honestly, the Connecticut mom pop places that I don't remember the name were always just so good. Because you got the atmosphere, too, like the Italian family in there yelling at each other.
There used to be a place like that in Nashville. What was it called? It was called Joey's House of Pizza over off Elm Hill Pike. And it was awesome because you'd go in there and you felt like you were just stepped into New York City for a minute. Like, what do you want?
Well, a lot of them have moved here, so
they unfortunately left suddenly out of nowhere. But no more Joey's. But that place is great.
No, there's a place now called Frankie's here that's really good.
I'll be there in a month and a half. I'll have to try it out. I haven't heard of Frankie's.
Frankie's is really good. Roberta's here is really good. 5 Points Pizza is really good.
5 Points is really good.
But because of my health needs, I'm not eating a lot of pizza.
That's fair.
I do. I mean, I don't not eat anything, but it's just all in moderation.
Mm-hmm.
So classic New York pizza. Don't even talk about this deep dish crap. No, never.
No.
Chicago, no. No.
Oh, that is emphatic.
I'd put pineapple on a thin New York before I had deep dish.
Woo, that's a bold statement. It's bold. Well, Marty, thank you so much for the time. We'll slide over to Patreon and see what kind of shenanigans we can stir up, if that works for you.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. For Marty, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones. There you have it, folks. There is today's episode with Marty. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you want more content and you want to help keep this thing going, you can go over to patreon.com/tonemob, where for just $5 a month, you will get extra episodes every single week, including one with Marty, and we talk about aliens. Yes, that's right. You heard it here first. We are talking about aliens on this week's Patreon episode, and I hope you will join us over there and check out all that good stuff. If you could like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff that helps out the YouTube algorithm to know that people are enjoying this show, I would really appreciate that. And again, don't forget, there are hundreds of episodes available wherever you get your audio podcasts. All right, folks, without further ado, I'll talk to you on the internet very, very soon. Bye-bye.